What if I told you a player that was supposed to be a top 5 pick fell all the way to the 5th round of the draft? On paper, Shedeur Sanders looked like a future star. Huge numbers, big name, all the hype. But NFL teams weren't buying it. They saw something deeper, and it changed everything. Shedeur's draft day slide wasn't just shocking, it was historic. To really understand how one of college football's biggest names had the biggest fall in NFL draft history, we have to go back to where it all started. His college career. Coming out of high school, Sanders was a 4-star recruit and the 26th ranked quarterback in the nation. Despite receiving offers from big-time schools like Alabama, Georgia, and LSU, Shedeur decided to commit to Jackson State, where his dad Deion was the head coach. Shedeur was JSU's starting quarterback for both his freshman and sophomore season, but when his dad was hired as Colorado's new head coach in 2023, Sanders followed him there. Colorado opened the 2023 season against number 17 TCU, and almost nobody gave the Buffs a shot. The Horned Frogs were favored by 21 points, 3 full touchdowns. But Sanders led Colorado to a stunning upset victory. He threw for a school record 510 yards and 4 touchdowns, which propelled the Buffs to a thrilling 45-42 win. Following this performance, draft buzz started to surround Shedeur. After just one game, some were already calling him a future first-round pick. In Colorado's next 2 games against Nebraska and Colorado State, Sanders backed up the hype. He completed 77% of his passes for 741 yards and 6 touchdowns. But then, just a week later, everything started to fall apart. In primetime, the now 19th ranked Buffs were set to face off with the 10th ranked Oregon Ducks, and after talking a lot of trash pregame, Colorado was destroyed 42-6. Sanders played terribly. He held onto the ball too long and had what seemed like no awareness in the pocket. He finished the game with 159 passing yards and 1 touchdown, and most of that came in garbage time against backups. 2 weeks later, Colorado got back in the win column with a 27-24 victory over Arizona State. After the game, Shedeur ran over to the ASU student section and flexed his watch, which, as you can guess, didn't sit well with some people. From that moment on, the Buffs' season unraveled. Sanders' play dipped, and Colorado lost its final 6 games. Shedeur finished his junior season completing 69% of his passes for over 3,200 yards, 27 touchdowns, and just 3 interceptions. Heading into the 2024 season, Deion made it clear he had big plans for his son.
Where do you predict Shedeur and Travis going in the draft?
One of them is going to be one.
That's what I'm talking about.
One of them is going to be
speak it
one.
into existence.
And the latter one would not go behind 4. Now, all this is subjective because I know where I want them to go. So there's certain cities that ain't going to happen.
Okay, you on point.
It's going to be it's going to be an Eli.
As soon as the 2024 draft wrapped up, Shedeur Sanders was quickly labeled as the favorite to be the number 1 overall pick the following year. But the rest of the offseason didn't pass without controversy. When former Colorado teammate Xavier Smith criticized Deion Sanders' coaching style in an interview with The Athletic, Shedeur fired back on Twitter posting, "I don't even remember him, TBH. Bro had to be very mid at best." Questions about Shedeur's leadership continued once the 2024 season began. After being sacked 5 times in a 28-10 loss versus Nebraska, Sanders put the blame on his offensive line. When asked if Colorado needed to be more balanced on offense, he said,
how many times did Raiola get touched?
You said what?
How many times did Raiola get touched?
And just for context, Raiola is Nebraska's quarterback. The following week, Shedeur had an amazing 400-yard, 4-touchdown performance versus Colorado State. But even with the huge numbers, the biggest story wasn't his play. It was what happened after the game. When CSU's quarterback offered a post-game handshake, Shedeur turned away and trash-talked him instead, later saying he was clapping back at his pregame remarks that the Buffs' media train hype would only go so far. Also, guys, I want to thank the sponsor of today's video, Underdog. Underdog is the place to play if you're looking to cash in on all your favorite players' performances. By playing their pick'em game, you could win up to 1,000 times your money just by choosing higher or lower on player stats like points, threes, hits, home runs, and more. And you guys know I had to hook you up, so if you sign up with my promo code SheGotSports, you'll get up to $1,000 in bonus cash and a free pick. Then came the final game of Shedeur's college career, the Alamo Bowl. A few days before the game, Shedeur said, "We know where we're going, baby. You'll see them in the cleats." And sure enough, pre-game, he had a pair of custom New York Giants cleats, the team who held the #1 overall pick at the time. However, once the game started, Sanders looked nothing like a #1 pick. He held onto the ball way too long, took a ton of unnecessary sacks, threw 2 interceptions, and just really couldn't move the ball downfield. It was really, really ugly. Colorado ended up losing 36-14. Sanders finished his senior season with the highest completion percentage in college football by completing 74% of his passes for 4,134 yards, 37 touchdowns, and 10 interceptions. On paper, his numbers seemed really good, but when you turned on the game film, it told a different story. Colorado ran an RPO offense, which included a ton of short, quick passes. You see, 29.1% of Sanders' completions were at the line of scrimmage. 45.8% of his completions were from 0 to 9 yards. That means a total of 74.9% of his completions were 9 yards or less. Shedeur was also the most sacked quarterback in the nation last year, taking 42 sacks. Yes, Colorado's offensive line was really bad, but not all those sacks are on them. Sanders often held onto the ball far too long in the pocket, frequently patting it before throwing, which slowed down his release even more. When you go back and watch some of Shedeur's games, there are plays where he has a clean pocket for 3 seconds and an open wide receiver, but just doesn't throw the ball. That brings me to what I think the biggest flaw in Sanders' game is. He waits for his wide receivers to be wide open instead of throwing them open with anticipation. That's why he holds onto the ball for so long and takes so many sacks. In the NFL, you just can't wait for your receivers to get open on every play. It just doesn't happen. And the quarterbacks that do don't make it far in the league. And let me tell you, as a Giants fan, I think I know this better than anyone. I just watched Daniel Jones do the exact same thing for 6 frustrating seasons. Always waiting to see his receivers open before throwing the ball. And what did that get him? Sacked a ton and cut last season. When Sanders had a clean pocket and an open target, he was super accurate and looked great. But when things weren't perfect, his play declined a lot. After Colorado's season ended, Sanders was projected to be the second quarterback off the board behind Cam Ward, but still a top 3 pick. However, once the pre-draft process began, Sanders unknowingly started to destroy his own draft stock. For starters, Sanders chose not to hire a traditional agent. Instead, he had his dad, Dion, take on that role. An agent's job is to give their clients an accurate range of where they're projected to get drafted, so they know how to handle the combine, interviews, and other parts of the process. Dion felt like his son was a lock to go top 5, but teams obviously didn't feel the same way. Thinking he was a top prospect, Sanders opted not to participate in the Senior Bowl or throw at the combine.
If you ain't trying to change the franchise or the coach, don't give me. So you should know history repeats itself over and over and over, and I've done it over and over and over, so it should be no question why an NFL franchise should pick me.
This raised some eyebrows around the league, but the QB was still expected to be a top 10 pick. Then came draft week, and that's when things took a dramatic turn. Just 2 days before the draft, Tom Pelissero reported that a longtime assistant coach had some harsh words about Sanders, saying, quote, "He was the worst formal interview I've ever been in. He's so entitled. He takes unnecessary sacks, never plays on time, shows horrible body language, and blames his teammates. But the biggest thing is, he's just not that good." In the same report, an AFC executive also shared concerns, saying, quote, "It didn't go great in our interview. He wants to dictate everything, what he's going to do, and what's best for him. He makes you feel small." When draft day finally arrived, Sanders was still expected to hear his name called in the first round. After Cam Ward went first overall, the picks kept coming, but no team took a quarterback. Then, late in the first round, the QB-needy Giants traded back into the first. It had to be for a quarterback, right? Well, it was, but not for Shedeur Sanders. Instead, they selected Jackson Dart. So, to the shock of many, the first round came and went without Sanders hearing his name called. Rounds 2 and 3 kicked off the next day, and it seemed like a lock that Shedeur would be drafted. The quarterback-needy Browns held 2 of the first 4 picks in the second round, and many expected them to take Sanders with one of them, but they didn't. Then came the most shocking move yet. With the 40th overall pick, the Saints selected 25-year-old quarterback Tyler Shough instead of Sanders. That's when people really started asking, What's going on? What could Shedeur have possibly said or done in those interviews? But things only got worse from there. In the third round, 2 more quarterbacks went off the board. Jalen Milroe to the Seahawks and Dylan Gabriel to the Browns. Nobody thought these quarterbacks were better players than Sanders. It was truly shocking watching it all unfold. So day 2 of the draft came and went, and Sanders still hadn't heard his name called. Finally, on day 3, with the 144th overall pick in the 5th round, the Browns drafted Shedeur Sanders, even though, they just drafted another quarterback 2 rounds earlier. And what was even more odd was the faces the Browns GM and head coach made when the pick was announced. They looked just thrilled, right? I mean, these faces just screamed the team owner overruled us and told us we have to take Sanders with this pick. So why did Shedeur fall farther than we've ever seen a prospect fall before? Details are finally coming out about what happened behind closed doors. Tom Pelissero reported that during the pre-draft process, Sanders, quote, very much proceeded as if he was dictating to clubs where he was going to go, rather than how the draft works, which is the other way around. There were even reports that he purposely performed poorly in meetings with teams he didn't want to play for. But here's the thing, it wasn't just the teams he didn't like. Things went poorly even with the teams he wanted to play for. According to Todd McShay, when Sanders met with the Giants, coaches gave him an install package to review, but Shedeur showed up unprepared. When coaches called him out on it, he didn't handle it well and made it clear he didn't appreciate their criticism. I do just want to say, I think Shedeur handled his fall in the draft really well. I mean, he went from thinking he was a top 5 pick to a 5th round pick in just 48 hours. I mean, if that was me, I would actually be crashing out, throwing a tantrum like a child, crying, it would be ugly. But on all 3 days, he seemed to keep things super positive and was in good spirits, and when he finally did get drafted, he was super happy and dancing and celebrating. He didn't pull a, 9 mistakes were made ahead of me when talking to the media after, if you know that reference. He wasn't bitter, he wasn't like, the league messed up, this is so wrong. He was just like, hey, I'm excited to go out there and play and prove what I can bring to the table. And that really just showed a ton of maturity. If you guys don't understand that reference about 9 mistakes being made ahead of me, you can check out this video up here. It's talked about in this video. It's a crazy story also.